This is the Chrysalis Colour Analysis Podcast. Your hosts are Christine Skaman of 12 Blueprints
and Jorunn Harness of Nordic Simplicity.
We are color analysts, and we talk about how color can help you love the way you look.
We aim for publishing a new episode roughly once a month, but the best way to make sure you don't miss out on an episode is to subscribe to Chrysalis Colour Analysis on your preferred podcast app.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 42. Do you make New Year's resolutions? Why that title? Because I wouldn't keep a New Year's resolution for 10 minutes. I'd feel as if I was being told what to do, and I would head off in the other direction.
Yes, you would, because you would be in very good company, Christine. We make them and we break them. I did some Googling, and here's a quote from an article I found in the New York Post. It says, a new poll of 2,000 Americans found that it takes just 32 days for the average person to finally break their resolutions, but 68% report giving up their resolutions even sooner than that. In fact, 1 in 7 Americans never actually believe they'll see their resolution through in the first place. Ha!
Yeah. Tell me if this is depressing. And I mean, I'm sure there are many reasons, but one reason why this is familiar to everyone listening, probably, or many of us, is that we don't really manage our expectations.
Tell me more.
I think that we overestimate what we can accomplish or change or absorb or create in 30 days. And we hugely underestimate what is possible if we take smaller steps for a longer time, which is hardly original. I'm sure that's been said many times.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're right. And usually a New Year's resolution is not about doing 5 minutes a day. That's not grand enough for a proper New Year's resolutions, if you know what I mean. It's more like, I'm going to completely quit eating chocolate forever. So the question is, why would we set ourselves up for failure? I think a lot of it is the champagne talking on New Year's Eve. And why that's part of why I don't like New Year's resolutions, because a resolution has to be like properly good. And invariably, that's kind of an unrealistic goal that I'll set for myself. And then I set myself up for failure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? They're just too grand. And I bet if we set very tiny little resolutions, we'd probably keep more of them. But you and I are, both of us, passionate about evolving, about constantly changing and improving. So let's reframe. Let's talk about building habits instead of making resolutions, or let's talk about living in the spirit of constant renewal, as a very smart woman recently said.
I love that quote. What a smart woman.
Isn't she?
But yeah, I know. Allow me to be a nerd about this, since I am. I did some research, and making New Year's resolutions is a very old custom. I was kind of wondering if it was something new, something commercial or something, but it isn't. According to the website that's called history.com, around 4,000 years ago in ancient Babylonia, they had a tradition for making promises to the gods around the turn of the year, especially paying off debts or returning borrowed objects. And also, way back in the Roman Empire, the god Janus, or do you say Janus?
Janus, well, maybe. I don't know. I don't say the word very much, but I would not think to say Janus.
Don't talk about Roman gods very much, Christine?
Not often.
What company do you keep? Anyway, Janus or Janus, he's the two-faced god, looking both backwards and forwards. He's the god of gateways, and New Year's is a gateway to the new year. And January, the month of January, is named after him. Anyway, long story short, the Romans made sacrifices and promises to him for the new year. So, why do we keep doing this to ourselves every year? Any thoughts on this, Christine?
Well, I'm not going to pretend that I don't look towards the coming year or the changing of years as having some significance. I'm not quite as neutral as I make myself sound, I guess. I think it's because something I do relate to is I do not want the next year to be the same as the last year. I want me to be different next year.
You want to keep evolving.
I do. I want to have more awareness, self-awareness. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. And I guess that's what I'm working on.
Progress. Yeah. Well, I came across this quote by Vern McClellan, which I didn't know. I had to Google him. Apparently, he's well known for his quotes. It was actually in the newsletter from a dog trainer that I follow. And she put this quote in there. She said, "What the new year brings to you will depend a great deal on what you bring to the new year." I like that.
That's it, right? It's perfect. It is so true. Every situation, conversation, decision, what we decide and what we end up doing, it's got everything to do with the person making those choices. The other people in our lives would not make those choices. So I just want to bring a better version of me into the situations that lie ahead. And I think the odds of better outcomes goes up.
Well, you make choices that reflect the person you want to become. I didn't make that up. It's from a book that I like a lot. I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and that's one of the quotes that stuck with me.
Exactly. There are so many decisions where you don't really have time to pause and think about the person you want to become. But in the big decisions, you totally do. And I tell my kids, make choices towards the life you want to live, which is easier if you picture that life and the person living it, not this kind of vague, that's the kind of life I want to live. But who is this person? What's on her walls? What media does he take in first thing in the morning? When would she drink her first glass of water in a day? How many days a week does he make time for a walk? Like, you got to get specific about this stuff. And then you just got to go do it. About 10 years ago, from something someone said to me, I became very aware of, is the person in this situation saying what the person in my desired life would say? Well, the answer was no. And if the answer is no, well, then say something else. That's how you get different outcomes. And so I started really listening to myself, and I changed some choices in what I said and how I said it, because we totally have a lot of choice to not just react to whatever's in front of us. You send out a different action, you get a different reaction. Like, that's just one of the laws everything on the planet lives by. And then pretty soon it's a habit, it's in your blood. Like, habits are something that it's actually harder to not do. Would you see that? Do you think a habit
yes,
that way?
Yes, I can. That's kind of the essence of building habits, the value of it. And I think what you said about, the questions, I love that, the questions that you ask yourself. And if you picture yourself as who you want to be, okay, I want to quit smoking. That's very negative, right? But it's like, okay, I want to be a non-smoker.
Exactly.
And
yes.
And would a non-smoker do this? I want to be an athlete. I want to, okay. So what would an athlete lie on the sofa? No. If I'm an athlete, I go out and have another walk. So I walk more than once a week. That's, you think like the person you want to be. And that makes all the difference. And habits. I like habits instead of resolutions, because habits little by little. And of course, one of my heroes, James Clear, you move yourself slowly and steadily in that direction that you want to go, if you know what I mean. And well, you do know what I mean. You know me. I'm a person completely obsessed by self-improvement. So,
and there's many names for the same thing, aren't there? For me, I don't think about self-improvement. Well, depends who's asking if I'm improved. If I think I've improved, then that's good. But just looking back at a situation and liking better who I was in that situation, I guess. Are
Well,
you?
improving, before, I could do one push-up and now I can do
Yeah,
5. That's an improvement. I mean,
very much.
not improving according to what other people are, but improving myself.
So true. I mean, that's really the distinction I needed you to help me make.
That's why you have me, Christine.
Yeah, it's why I have you. That's, it's just not
This is why she keeps me. This is why
yeah.
she.
Oh, lots of reasons. Lots of reasons. But those little steps, you said you build your habits little by little. Are you deliberate in the steps? Like, do you actually plan them?
Yes, I actually do. I've chosen a couple of manageable habits that I'm actually sticking to for a couple of years now. One is learning French. It's very helpful as your brain ages to learn a new language. And I do a short lesson every day. And inspired by you, dear Christine, I started working out every morning.
Mhm.
Just short 15, 20, 30-minute sessions. Nothing really ambitious, but it's the steady habit is doing me such good.
That's wonderful. You still do that? I mean, yeah, it's been a year or more now.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just something that you do. You are a person who does this.
Yeah, I'm a person who works out in the morning. So I get up and I put on my gear and I go out and I do my thing.
Yeah, I don't negotiate with myself anymore than am I going to brush my teeth today? I don't really feel like brushing my teeth. It just you don't have these conversations. It's like just put the shoes on for God's sake.
Should I?
Yeah,
Should
just
I
just
get
do
that?
it. Yeah. So yeah, I try to bring my best self to situations, and I've thought a lot, and I practice who and what that is. When I was learning my color season, of course, I found it helped me a lot to plan the steps because you could go into this store with this sort of vague 65 color collection of, well, maybe, I'm going to find it in here somewhere. And in the beginning, that was what it was. It grew organically. It was kind of a hit and miss general dark winter direction. But then the gaps were filled by identifying what the gaps were and looking at each color individually in your palette, one single color, cover over all the others. Pretty soon you can learn to do that without having all the others covered over. But in the beginning, I had to cover them all. Looked at one. And the discoveries, black olive, that was a really big discovery for me. And then you get busy and you fix them.
I'm sure. Finally, our listeners are probably like, finally, they're talking about color.
Yes.
This is the color analysis podcast, for crying out loud. Yes. So I'm glad you brought the topic of color in here, Christine. So you deliberately set out to fix each gap little by little with baby steps in the direction you wanted.
Yes. When I finally got to a certain stage, I'm laughing to myself because this reminds me of when I had children. The first 3 months are just a rodeo. They're in control, especially with the first child. You're just going with it. But then after a while, the basics are in place, and then you decide, okay, this is when we eat, this is when we sleep. And so, yeah, I'd pick one color that I didn't own. And I'd have to look at each color and I'd have to cover the others. And I would hold it in my mind until it appeared. And then it always did. And so all of a sudden, you're starting to learn, if I just hold this in my mind, it will appear. Or I'd make myself try something. That was also big. What is my comfort zone? And I'd get out of it. One might be a darker eyeliner. And if I was in a rut that I just wasn't admitting to myself, no, one has to be this, it can't be anything else. Well, then I would try to get out of it. Some was easy. Figuring out the warm side of dark winter, for example, that brought me back to a lot of autumn colors that I sincerely love. Some were not so easy. Like understanding the neutrals. Oh, that was difficult for me. And possibly that takes some time for everybody.
Yes, neutrals are surprisingly difficult. You'd think that neutral is neutral, yeah, but it isn't.
Oh boy.
Yes, and I have done the same thing. I decided not as I don't want to have a color, an item in every color in my fan. But I decided to pick one of my bright colors, and I actually got tops in that color. That's bright pink. Many of my audience will remember that bright pink top from my videos, and then I made myself wear them. And so that was mine.
Yeah. And then eventually you think, oh, wow, I survived this.
And I looked good doing
I
it.
looked good, and I actually might be in a better place. So, what about yellow? Or, what if I tried blue?
Yep. Oh, yes. Actually, I did the same with yellow.
Yeah.
And I do love my yellow cardigan now.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's terrific. When we were planning this episode, thinking now in very general terms, I'm going back to resolutions. I just can't get off. It's one of my favorite topics. What would I say to every reader, listener, viewer, to myself, to Joran, to everybody I know for this year coming up? And I think a lot of this comes from YouTube videos. Don't compare yourself or others to people on screens. They are about as real as Marge Simpson.
Yes, when we've had this conversation a couple of times, and I actually misunderstood you the first time you brought Marge Simpson into the conversation. I thought you meant as real as Marge Simpson, as a good thing, because I love Marge Simpson. She has blue hair as high as heaven, and she makes mistakes. She loves her family just the way they are. I like her. She seems real to me.
She is. That's very fair. She is, in a way, extremely recognizable. That's kind of why she is so successful, and maybe Homer too. Because, they're relatable, right? Marge changes course, and life has to keep going, whether she got things right or not. So that thought for me came from perceptions people would have of what I look like from the YouTube videos. And it's all very managed and quite a long way from reality. And something we forget with celebrities, but yet we're always comparing ourselves to them, even though deep down we know they don't even look like that.
True, they don't. So, full disclosure, do you, Christine, have any intentions for the next year?
My intention for 2023, and this is something I've been practicing from something someone said to me actually back in October, but it'll carry through this new year, is holding on to the most optimistic possible outcome for every situation. Because it has been a chaotic, traumatic, and often overwhelming year. And yet that plan has worked incredibly well. Little things, big things, they just turned out the best way they could have. Maybe they always did. I just didn't notice. Now, it's not everything. I mean, I don't know why Canada Post still hasn't found my Hogwarts letter, but I'm sure that they will.
They will.
They will. It will arrive. There will be an owl out there with my letter. I just have
Hedwig.
What about you? Any intentions for this year?
To get that bag of clothes that are going to the thrift store out in the car and actually off to the thrift store. But maybe that's one of the unrealistic grand resolutions. No, seriously. What I've been consistently doing is not particularly color related, I'm afraid. But like I said earlier, my ongoing constant renewal project is to learn a language, and then the exercising, and I intend to keep doing that.
Do you have any current color intentions for 2023?
Actually, come to think of it, I do. I started thinking about it before planning this episode, so it's not really quite a New Year's resolution, but my intention for the next year is to focus on the neutrals. And also, I'm kind of fascinated by the lesser bright sides of my palette. And it's something that I have been thinking about for a long time. And I don't know, it's not pretty well, as you know, I don't do New Year's resolutions. But there are some wonderful neutrals in there that I haven't explored properly. that I'm planning on focusing more on. My browns and taupes, for instance. And for colors, I'm thinking of picking blue. I've been very stuck in black, gray, white, and red for a very long time. And I find that I need to explore my blues. You know, if I get new clothes or knit something new in 2023, it should be blue. And you? If you're done exploring all your colors, Christine?
No, but the first thing that came into my mind was to not buy stuff, because you get awfully good at it. At first, I get these emails, they don't make things in my colors. Oh boy, do they ever. And the colors start finding you. And I'm dreaming of this jewel tone berry vest at the moment that I'm trying not to buy. But
oh, and I keep saying, do it.
yeah. Well, I've been doing other things. I went to Halifax last weekend, and well, I managed to make my way to the mall because it was right beside the fabric store. I had to go. And so as I think about it, if I'm doing anything, it's playing with amazing and the word disruptive comes to mind, but that might be just me, provocative color combinations. So a red turtleneck with a cool gray beige, the lighter neutrals combined with red in something I'm going to wear, like a zip up sweater, and just clever combinations that I've never really put together before, or combining textiles. So nylon and lycra in the same item in different prints or colors, just trying to get a little more exciting. Icy colors in shoes. If you can't get them in one thing, get them in another thing. And they totally exist in shoes, just like every color exists in men's ties. Shoes, jeans, eyeglasses. There's a lot going on before you buy something, but it's the same. Hold it in your mind. And it is amazing how much you see. It's always been there. I bought these hiking shoes, navy and icy blue. I was so pleased with myself. It's crazy what's out there. And, I've learned to play the long game with color. And you bring a better, stronger self to every single choice. And it's kind of interesting to look at what you would have bought a month ago, but also knowing why you wouldn't buy it today. You need time to learn from that and to change course, and then what you decide to buy today. Do you ever do that? Can you look at things you bought 3 months ago, 6 months ago, last week, whatever, and know that you might not buy them today, and know what you learned from it? Does that happen to you? Yeah.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And I have sometimes paused and not bought something that I thought I really, 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 really wanted.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that, okay, I didn't actually need it or want it anymore. If I managed to give myself that pause, which is really, really hard, because you get wrapped up in this
Impulse. Yeah.
Really,
You're just so sure you'll never see a more perfect green ever again in your entire life.
In your size. And
yes.
I know. And you get this FOMO, isn't it? The fear of missing out. Oh, it's not going to come back ever, and I'll never find it. Yeah, I know. I know.
And then the best thing that happens, whether you buy it or you don't, is realizing why. It's not so much that you didn't need it, but it wasn't actually the best possible green, so you kind of learn to outlast your own impulses a little bit, and you need to take time to keep changing course.
Yeah. And this is why we have thrift stores.
It is indeed. So much.
Yep. Anyway, so back to building habits instead of making resolutions. The book Atomic Habits, which I mentioned, it really helped me change my perspective regarding how I improve. James Clear, and we'll link to it in the show notes. And one quote that stuck to me from the book is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And to me, that was like really new, because I thought, I need to set goals, I need to project, I need to visualize. And no, I don't. I need to build better systems. And doing one little thing, but doing it consistently over a long time, you build a habit and a system. And that's what encouraged me to spend just a few minutes learning French every day. And it does work. It really, really does. Anyway, so I'm kind of fascinated with your habit of working out every morning. I've known you for a while now. And
12 years.
oh God, yes, has it been? We haven't aged. Anyway, back on topic, you've probably been working out for a very long time. I know you did it at the time when I got to know you. Can you remember why you started that habit? Or, and why you stuck to it?
I guess the reasons have changed over the years. I started in the 80s when Jane Fonda, was doing aerobics, and Olivia Newton-John was singing Let's Get Physical. It was probably about appearance in my 20s. It was fun. It was social. Lots of people were doing it. Nowadays, well, I don't want to say it's like the Nike slogan, every damn day. But it is kind of is that just put the shoes on.
Yeah, do your thing. What makes you keep that habit going?
Well, now, this is one of my favorite topics, right? Is how do you, well, what you said about James Clear, how do you improve? It's all very nice to say, you got to have a plan here. You got to have a system. And so what makes me keep the habit going? Well, now it's harder not to. The benefits kind of exceed the effort. The quality of sleep is huge, for example. And I know that tonight will be different because I make a different choice at 9 a.m. And movement, it really clears out the mind. It clears out my mind. It's how I meditate, I think. And plus practicing that consistency, right? It's the key to everything. And you can transfer skills you learned in one skill or one area, one arena, over to anything else. And I've learned things, though, partly related to our lives, partly appearance related. One is success is what you can't see. Like it's invisible, but it's strong. It's the coming into ownership of being in control of your appearance. And there's a focus and a calm that go with that. I'm a believer, I think I said this earlier, never do anything to impress someone else. And our ego counts as someone else. That's another person because they own you and they're never happy for long. And that has real relevance with appearance where it can just, I hesitate to say this, it can become about status. And was something I struggle with, working in the appearance industry. Like I'm very careful what it is I would be a spokesperson for. Like you're out shopping for a watch. So, okay, fine, own any watch you want. But would you have chosen that one if you were the only person here? Or honest with yourself, was there another watch that would have been just fine? And to be fair, like it's not like I'm, anybody special. I am sure I started working out because so many people were. I was in my 20s, for the appearance benefits, for external stuff. Maybe that's always bigger in your 20s. And then over time, the person who's got to believe who you are is you. It's nobody else. The others just go along for the ride. Then you're halfway there, color, exercise, doesn't matter what it is. So you're halfway there, like your relationship with French. But then you don't want the game to end because it's this really good relationship and it wants to keep going on its own. Like I think creators would recognize that moment when your creation becomes separate from you. It's outside of you. You are one, you gave rise to it. Our children are the same. But we don't own that creation. The world owns it. And so maybe that's what a habit is, a relationship that keeps going. Nowadays, appearance is not on the list of reasons to work out. Maybe it's 10th of 10. The consistency is the reason because you got to outlast yourself and you got to tell yourself the truth. And it's really, really hard. But at the end of the day, it's you against you out there. The rest is just the practice field. Also, I'll stop soon. Like, as you can tell, I think about this a lot. Part of making a habit is honoring the habit. I think we talked about this. That's how you believe I am this kind of person, whoever you want that to be. You get all the stuff out of the way that isn't good for the habit. It's like comparing ourselves to the wrong thing. You got a choice. I follow this person on YouTube. Her name is Sydney Cummings, now married, Sydney Howdeshell. I'll put a link. She's there every morning at 9 o'clock. And so I'm there. And appearance is the same. You learn to ignore the rules. What doesn't apply to you? The budgets that make no sense, the styles that are unrelatable, but you find the good stuff and then you get on with it. Maybe it's just a long way of saying that you cannot teach experience. Would you relate to that, Joran? Do you feel that, I don't want to say you make sacrifices to learn French or to exercise, but you do have to get other choices out of the way? Does that relate to, do you feel you can recognize?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word sacrifice, maybe prioritize.
Prioritize.
I
Yes,
have to
yes.
make it a priority.
You do. You have to honor.
Yeah, honor it. I think that was really, really well put. Yeah, yeah, I like
You
that.
have to make this statement like, hey, universe, this matters to me. This is the kind of, I want a body that can move, and I will do what I can do. I guess for me, a lot of it has to do with, I just got to know I tried. And if it's not in the cards, then it's not in the cards. I can accept that. But I got to know I tried. So just pick, you can't try everything. You just got to make your choices.
True, true. So, and maybe we should choose to get back to color analysis, since this is, how about that? No, well, since this is a color analysis podcast, can we come up with some fun color-related habit changes or challenges or resolutions, habits, systems that we could inspire people to focus on? And of course we can, because we're
us.
We're us, yes.
Yeah, I mean, excellent. I would love to do that.
Yes, and I want to start by winters. Make it a challenge to learn the softer side of winter. Follow me on my quest to find the softer side of winter, whichever winter you may be. I think that's a great challenge.
I think that's a great challenge too. And everyone will step into it in a different place. Like recently, I was speaking with a woman about, she would tell me that she was making softer choices, and I would see pictures. What she was doing was making warmer choices. And as a true winter, it wasn't helping her. So however you step into it, learn the softer side of winter. And springs, another one, also not an easy one. Spend 2023 telling apart autumn warm from spring warm.
That's such a good challenge, because there are so many colors like that khaki green that springs is just pure magic for them.
Yeah.
But finding that and learning to say no to the khaki that dips into autumn.
Yep.
And if you can, and it takes time and it takes effort, but I think that's a really, really good challenge for spring.
Well, and it identifies a gap, right? Because a lot of times you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. So it kind of identifies a little gap.
And for autumns, how about taking a walk on the wild side? Explore your brighter colors. Yeah. And that's an interesting challenge for most autumns, don't you think, Christine?
I think so. The bright corals, orange, even bold.
Rust.
Yeah. It just looks so good.
Yeah, autumn is kind of a three muted seasons, but there's a surprising bit of intensity in some of the colors, and to explore those would be magic.
Very true, very uplifting. Summers, know your reds, your darker reds, and use them. So there's the pinks and there's the medium reds. But
and then there's the raspberries.
The raspberries and the sangrias and all those other darker colors. The warmer ones, the cooler ones. Even in true summer, right? There's those warmer looking ones and the cooler.
Muted blue, burgundy.
Yeah. And these may not be easy resolutions. They weren't for me. Or maybe they are for you, and that's great. And if you think, okay, that is a gap, actually, I'd like to hear more about that, share that with us in the comments at Chrysalis Colour, and we'll see if we can make that happen.
Yes, we might build entire episodes around each of these if we
Sure,
have enough interest of it and feel
sure.
inspired. So this episode, this year, and this episode is coming to an end. And I want to ask our listeners, did you notice the new intro we had?
Yes, we said we aim to publish roughly once a month, which sounds a bit loosey-goosey.
Loosey-goosey. There's nothing loosey-goosey about you. It's so funny to hear you say that word.
Well, there's always this has been quite a year, and we're both very busy, but we love this podcast, and we do aim for a monthly episode, but we do have many commitments, and we also have this 5-hour time difference between Canada and Norway, which can be challenging.
So, while we would like to publish every month, and then if we don't always manage it, we really feel bad because we're both very conscientious people. So in order to sleep well at night, we decided to not trick our listeners into believing that we'll always be able to publish every single month. So we'll be back with another episode, hopefully in another month. And as we said in the intro, please subscribe to our podcast, then you're sure to not miss out. Bye for now.
Happy New Year. We look forward to being back with you next year. Bye-bye.